We're in the middle of MLB trade season. Welcome back to Good Sports For You, where we are talking about good sports for you. And today I'm going to be going over what teams should be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline. Today we're only doing the American League. And before we hop into it, I want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate it so much. So to start off, in the American League East, I'm going to have the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that they should soft sell. Now, what I mean by that is you're not going to trade away your key long-term pieces. For example, Vlad's going to stick around. Dylan Cease is going to stick around. Ernie Clement, all those guys who you have locked up long-term or at least for multiple years are going to be around. There are guys, though, that you could trade potentially for some prospects if you think you could get some. George Springer is a key example. He's on an expiring contract. He hasn't been very good this season, so we'll see what they could get in return. Dalton Varsho, I think, is a really interesting piece. His hitting hasn't been fantastic this season with an 87 OPS plus, which means he's 13% below league average. However, his defense is there, so he could definitely potentially be a guy that a contender is looking to pick up if they're looking for an average bat who can play some good defense in center field. I think one of their key pieces, though, is going to be Kevin Gausman. He's on the last year of his deal. He's still a quality starting pitcher. He has a 100 ERA plus this season, so he's been exactly average. There are a lot of contending teams who are looking for an average starting pitcher, somebody that you could put in the 3, the 4, potentially 5 if you have a very good rotation. Another guy that you could be looking to trade off is Jeff Hoffman. Now, he hasn't been good this year. However, he does have extra years on his deal, so you could potentially get a little bit more back. However, because he hasn't been very good, I'd be concerned about how much you could realistically get for him. And at that point, you could just be like, alrighty, we'll just fare it out, right? But I would say do not trade Vlad, Cease, Ernie Clement, Alejandro Kirk would be my big 4 that I'd want to stick on to. The next team is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. I'd say just stand pat or maybe do a soft buy right now. I still believe in their young core. I made a video about it like a year ago where I still feel that their young core is enough that maybe next year they could be competing. But also at the same time, I'm like, the American League is weak right now. You feel you could be in the mix for a wild card spot. Why not go for it? I wouldn't sell any of your key guys. Gunnar Henderson, even like a Jackson Holiday, Adley Rutschman, like those guys, those young players that you have under contract, keep them around. Don't trade Pete Alonso, obviously. You could potentially be in the market to trade, though, Taylor Ward or also Trevor Rogers. Both of those guys are on expiring contracts, and they've been very solid. So if you could get back a decent haul, I wouldn't be opposed to, like, for them, they're in just such a weird place. Like, if they go off up until now, until the trade deadline, buy. If they have a really bad week, I would say sell. They're just kind of in a weird in-between right now. The next team is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. I'd say buy. This is the weakest that the American League has looked in years. Why not take advantage when you are the best team, especially with the Judge injury? You can get out there, you can build a lead in the East. The Red Sox will obviously, if they continue to where they are right now, they could be fighting for the title right now too. But right now, you are the best team. There are holes in the lineup, though. They can definitely make some plays to upgrade at places. You know, like Cedric Mullins hasn't been doing very well. You got some other spots. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But you need to upgrade some of the bats. You can always use another starting pitcher. Nick Martinez has obviously been incredible. Drew Rasmussen has been very good, but why not add one more piece? However, I will say, do not mortgage the future. I still feel this team still has enough young, good players. Junior Caminero, obviously, is the prime example, where you can build around him in the future, so don't mortgage out everything that you have right now. The next up, we're going to have the Boston Red Sox. I'm going to put them at a soft buy. The win streak obviously puts them into buy mode right now. You can get another bat. You can trade for, especially for a catcher. The catching position for them has been very weak this season, so I would say, like, buy in that aspect, but don't do anything crazy, but because similar to the Rays, they have good young pieces that have had injuries this season. Marcelo Mairo will be a good player. Roman Anthony will be a good player. A lot of the other players you have locked up under contract for a very long time. You don't have a need to be like, let's go all in right now and trade away all of our young talent, for example, to get like Tarek Skubal or something like that. I don't think that would be smart. So I'd say just do like a soft buy, kind of beef it up. And if you really feel like this is your team, this is the time to do it, you know? Next up is going to be the New York Yankees. I'm going to say buy. There's a clear need, and that is specifically the catcher, right? Austin Wells has been very, very bad offensively. So if you could beef up the catching position, people have been talking about Hunter Goodman. That's not going to happen. Why would the Rockies trade the one good player that has turned out from their organization and is still under a ton of team control, you would have to give up so much for him. And I also think that's another weird Yankees thing where I don't think they realize how much they would have to give up to get a 2-time All-Star catcher who routinely hits 30 home runs this season and also has better road numbers than home numbers at Coors Field. You'd have to give up an arm and a leg, so Yankees fans wouldn't be happy about that, and then they're not going to be happy when they don't get him. It doesn't make any sense. Yankees fans don't make any sense. Obviously, the Judge injury changes a lot of things, right? Because he's been out way longer than we expected him to be, and now there are reports that are saying he's going to be out even longer. So that brings up a lot of concern because I do think that this team is really built around Judge. Moving on to the AL Central, our first team is the Cleveland Guardians. I am putting them in a buy now mode because they have a lot of good pieces to potentially go out and win a playoff series, mainly because they have a really solid pitching core and their lineup is kind of enough to get by right now. If you beef up the lineup, I really think that they have a chance to go out and make some noise in the playoffs, honestly. And also because the Central and honestly all of the American League right now is so weak, why not go out and try to win it? Our next team is going to be the Kansas City Royals. I'm putting them in a soft sell mode, and that's because this just isn't the season. Hold on to your key pieces. Bobby Witt Jr., Jack Caglione, Michael Garcia. Those are the guys that I think that you want to build around in the future. They're all extremely talented players, but this season it just isn't clicking. Trade away some of your expiring contracts. We got Chris Bubich and we got Lane Thomas. Those are two guys that are on expiring contracts. Go out, get some young players in exchange for them. It won't be a crazy haul because neither of them have been fantastic this year, and both of them are on expiring contracts. There have been rumors that I've seen about potentially Michael Wacha or Seth Lugo getting moved, but because they have more time on their contracts, I think that teams would have to give up a lot in order to get those guys. It would be a lot to have to move them away from the Royals, I think. So that's why I'm like, just soft sell right now. Just get rid of some of the expiring contracts and basically try again next year is honestly the way that I am with the Royals. Next up, we have the Detroit Tigers, and for them, I'm in like a decide the day of mode, which is a very weird spot to be in because you have the most valuable piece on the entire trade market, and that is obviously Tarik Skubal. You're going to get an arm and a leg for him if you do decide to trade him off for half a season of one of the best pitchers in the entire league. But you also have a lot of other key pieces that you could move around to try to get better right now. You know, like if you could move Skubal and potentially get like a young pitcher who has like 2 or 3 years of control, I feel like you kind of make that move along. You'd have to get some other stuff with it too. But right now they're in an odd spot because they're not good enough to really compete. But if they go on a hot streak, then they would be competing. But also if they go on a cold streak, then they would be well below not competing. They're just in a really odd spot. So I'm kind of in the mode of like, if they go on a hot streak, you're going to buy. If they go on a cold streak, you're going to sell. You got to at least trade Tarik Skubal. You can't have him go and get nothing in return if you don't make the playoffs. That's like worst case scenario. And then you also have guys like a Jack Flaherty, who is obviously not Tarik Skubal. And you got Casey Mize, who is obviously better than Jack Flaherty and worse than Tarik Skubal if Jack Flaherty is able to come back from injury and stuff like that. And then you also have Gleyber Torres, which I think could definitely be interesting if a team is looking for a bat. But all of those guys are on expiring contracts. So if you don't think you can make the playoffs this year, I'd say cut it loose and basically cut your losses and start trading away. Next team is going to be the Minnesota Twins. I'm putting them in a soft sell. I said in my ranking every team's first half of the season that I am most upset with where the Twins are because they're not good and they're not bad. They're in a similar situation to the Tigers, but I think they're a worse team. They're definitely a worse team in my mind. You could trade Joe Ryan. You could get a lot for him because he has a year and a half of control. So that would be really, really interesting. I think the primary candidate for them, though, is going to be Ryan Jeffers. It's not like he's a huge part of the future of the team. He's on an expiring contract right now, and you could get some good stuff back. If a team is looking for a bat, they could definitely get him. If a team is looking for a catcher, they could definitely get him. For example, the New York Yankees. I'd be intrigued to see what a deal looks like there. I think that he could command a high price tag because he's been performing so well this season, even if it's in a limited sample size. And then the final team for the division is going to be the Chicago White Sox. I am in a stand pat mode. Don't do anything. The team is good. Don't mess with it. Don't trade your young players. Don't mortgage your future in the hopes of moving the timeline 1 year forward. This is where we thought they would be 1 year in the future. I'm like, next season, go for it. This season, I'm just like, stay put. If you guys can make it to the playoffs, which I think they will, get some experience under your belt, and you'll all be good. But right now, Just let it chill. In the final division, we have the American League West. Our first team is going to be the Los Angeles Angels. Sell. Another season of disappointment for the Angels. You could get a lot for Reed Detmers and Jose Soriano because both of those guys have a lot of team control still, or a couple of years, I should say. So they're two interesting players. I could definitely see my Brewers going out and getting one of those guys for sure to try to get one more really, really good pitcher to put into the rotation. You could see another team that's looking to compete trade for one of those guys who's still got a ton of control. If they maybe think, well, the Dodgers are too good this year, like, let's go out and try to get a guy that we can control for next season too. Like, go out and hunt those teams. Try to get those guys to trade for Soriano and for Reed Detmers, because right now they just don't fit the timeline. Not that there is a timeline for the Angels, which is so irritating. Like, honestly, I could see the Angels buying because it's the Angels and being like, no, this is our year to go for it all the way, because that's kind of what the Angels do, which is so stupid. But they also have a lot of expiring contracts, which I think could be really interesting. Jorge Soler is an interesting guy because he's on an expiring contract. He hasn't been very good this season. However, when the guy mashes, he mashes and can like carry a team. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a contender go out and get him, even if it's just like as a platoon DH bat. Like, honestly, I could see my Brewers doing it because he's had months or even a couple of weeks where he's been on an absolute tear and carried an offense. I mean, he was so good for the Braves when they won a World Series, and obviously we're like 5 years removed from that. But he still mashes. He can still mash, I should say. He hasn't been the guy that he used to be this season, obviously. Brent Suter's another interesting guy. I love me some Suter. Loved his time with the Brewers, but he's on an expiring contract. Kirby Yates is another guy. And then the other guy that I'd be intrigued by is going to be Travis d'Arnaud, actually, because he's a decent hitting catcher. So you could try to see what you can get out of the market for him. And then obviously the bigger questions are going to be Mike Trout and Zach Neto. Mike Trout is on a contract to the end of time. Zach Neto is still like arbitration eligible. You can't trade Mike Trout. He's Mike Trout. But I mean, it's like, well, if there's a year to trade him, it's the year of his resurgence, which would be like super frustrating though, because I know that like he wants to stay with Los Angeles, but he also wants to win. Zach Neto, it's the same thing. It's like you made this guy who's a star. He's a legit star. And if you trade him for prospects in the hope of one of them becoming a Zach Neto, that just doesn't make any sense to me. The only concerns are like the timeline. And another guy that brings up the timeline questions is Jo Adell. He hasn't lived up to the hype that a lot of people are expecting for him as a prospect. He hasn't been very good this season. But he's also interesting because he has a lot of team control. So could you get back some interesting prospects? I think you could for sure. The Angels are just in a weird spot as they always are, but I'd say trade the controllable pieces right now, like a Reed Detmers, like a Jose Soriano. Trade away the guys on expiring contracts like a Jorge Soler, but keep around Mike Trout and Zach Neto. It's tough. I mean, I want to see Trout succeed, but it's like, what? I also want to see him be an Angel for life. So it's like, what do you do there? Next team is going to be the Houston Astros, and I have bye, ? Because they're not that good, but also the American League is really weak. As I've been saying this entire video, specifically the AL West is awful. Jordan is having a historic season, so you're like, well, we could build around him and make a really good team. However, the pitching is bad. You need a couple of starters, so that's really the only thing. And you need a solid rest of July. If you can go on a week where you can win like 5 out of 7 or however many they play, I'd go like, yeah, let's buy. If you lose 5 out of 7, I'd be like, sell. But again, like the West is so weak that like come September, if you have a 4-game series against the Mariners, and if you sweep them, you're catapulted into the wild card race, if not into first in the division, you know? So I'm kind of like, yeah, bye, I guess. But I'm not really happy with it. Next up, we're going to have the Athletics. I'm in a soft sell mode. You had a bad June, you had a bad July, which really, really hurts them. You got to hold on to Kurtz. You got to hold on to Wilson. You got to hang on to Shea Langoliers. You got to hang on to Tyler Soderstrom. You got to hang on to the controllable pieces that are good and really talented. The obvious question is Jeff McNeil. You can definitely get rid of Jeff McNeil. He's on an expiring contract, or he has like a mutual option or something like that. Some sort of option in the final season. You can get rid of him. He does not fit the timeline whatsoever. Get back an intriguing prospect. Won't be a top 100 prospect, but see what you can get. Next up, we have the Seattle Mariners. I'm saying bye for them. They've been really disappointing this year, but this is an incredibly weak AL East, as I've said. This entire video long, the American League is really bad right now. So there are so many pieces on this team, though, that it's intriguing. You have so many position players that it's like, what do you do? The MLB article that I looked at for a lot of this video was talking about how you could trade for a right-handed bat, but it's like they have so many position players that you don't need another one to throw in the mix who's not going to get ABs. They're talking about getting like a real power reliever to add into the bullpen, which sure, why not? It's an interesting thing of like the team is good, but it just hasn't clicked this year. And you can't really make things click by going out and adding more players. So they're just in a weird spot, but I guess I'm saying bye now, even though like the team has the talent to be good. They're in a weird spot. And then finally, we're gonna have the Texas Rangers. I'm having them in a buy mode. But according to recent reports, the Rangers are in an uncommitted situationship right now between buying and selling, where they're like, we're not really sure what we're gonna do. Kind of a similar situation of like, they're not that good, but the American League East or the American League West is so bad right now. My biggest thing for them right now would be go out and get another starter. Like your starting pitching has not been very good. So if you can go out, get a starter, yeah, you should go do it. Don't give up any of your longtime controllable assets. Do not trade Wyatt Langford. He needs to be absolutely untouchable, but go out and make a move because the way that the playoffs are, especially in the American League this year, it's such an interesting situation of like, you can just go out and if you make the playoffs, there's a legit chance that you win 1, 2, maybe even 3 series. If you're a wild card team, you can be right back in the mix. And we saw this with the Blue Jays last season in the World Series. They were a worse team than the Dodgers, we know that. They still took the Dodgers to 7 because that's baseball. They were a play or two away from winning the entire thing because that's baseball. So I'm like, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, why not just go for it right now? And the Rangers are kind of in that situation, so it upsets me that management is like, oh, we don't know what to do. This is by far and away the clearest chance to go out and win the division that you've seen in a very long time because the division is truly, truly awful right now. But that's it for me. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things, especially comment if you feel I misrepresented your team. You know the most about your own team. I could probably do a 20-minute video on the Brewers alone, so please let me know what I got right and let me know what I got wrong. But that's it for me. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things, and I'm out. Peace.